Hello everyone, welcome back to Voice of Africa. I'm excited to be here today to bring you another update that's not only significant but also deeply fascinating. Today, we're diving into the dramatic story of a former president who's now facing possible extradition back to the very country he once led. This tale involves political intrigue, military coups, and a shocking twist that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about power and leadership in Africa. Colonel Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, former transitional president of Burkina Faso, may be forced to return to his homeland to face charges of plotting against the nation he once governed. But before we get into the details of this potential extradition, let's rewind and explore how Damiba rose to power and what led to his dramatic downfall. In January 2022, Burkina Faso was in crisis. The country was struggling with a growing jihadist insurgency that claimed thousands of lives and displaced millions of people. Citizens were fed up, and the government seemed powerless to stop the violence. Enter Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Damiba. On January 24, 2022, he led a coup that ousted then-President Roch-Marc Christian Kabore. His justification: the government's failure to address the escalating security crisis. At first, many people saw Damiba's coup as a necessary evil. The country was desperate for change, and with his military background, Damiba seemed like the man who could solve the problem. But here's a question for all of you watching. Do you think only a military president can solve the jihadist threat in the Sahel, or could a determined civilian leader do the job? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Now let's talk about what Damiba did after seizing power. He made some bold promises. First, he vowed to restore security within 2 to 3 months, a timeline that many saw as overly ambitious, given the complex nature of the insurgency. Second, he pledged to return the country to civilian rule within 21 months. This gave the people hope, as it signaled his intent to bring back democracy after taking power through military means. However, as we all know, making promises is one thing, delivering on them is another. Despite his military experience and his strong words, the reality on the ground didn't align with Damiba's promises. The security situation in Burkina Faso only worsened under his rule. Jihadist attacks increased, and the country recorded over 530 security incidents in the first 6 months of his rule, leading to nearly 2,000 deaths. That was more than the same period the previous year. The increase in violence shattered any illusions that Damiba could bring quick and decisive change. It wasn't just security that troubled Damiba's rule. His economic policies came under intense scrutiny as well. Unlike his successor, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, there's no evidence that Damiba made any significant reforms to government salaries or initiated major economic programs to ease the financial burden on citizens. Burkina Faso continued to grapple with rising inflation and increasing living costs, which only added to the growing public frustration. The economic hardships were palpable, and the public's patience was wearing thin. As the situation in the country worsened, so did Damiba's approval ratings. The people who initially celebrated his coup began to question whether he was truly the solution to Burkina Faso's problems, or just another military leader failing to deliver on lofty promises. Public discontent reached a boiling point when it became clear that not only had the security situation worsened, but the economic situation remained dire as well. Things came to a head in September 2022, just 8 months after Damiba took power. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a younger and more charismatic figure, led a group of junior officers in a second coup that ousted Damiba. Traoré accused Damiba of failing to improve the country's security situation, echoing the sentiments of many Burkina Faso citizens who had lost faith in Damiba's leadership. This second coup didn't just happen in a vacuum. It reflected the broader dissatisfaction that many people in Burkina Faso felt toward the former president. Protesters, who had once welcomed Damiba's takeover with optimism, began to question whether he was any better than his predecessor, Roch Kabore. In fact, in the months leading up to the coup, protests outside French institutions, such as the French embassy in Ouagadougou, suggested that the people of Burkina Faso were frustrated with Damiba's perceived ties to France. There were rumors that Damiba had sought refuge in a French military base and was planning a counter-offensive, fueling anti-French sentiment among the population. Let's pause for a moment to talk about Ibrahim Traoré, the man who replaced Damiba. At just 34 years old, he became the world's youngest head of state when he led the coup. But what sets Traoré apart from Damiba? While both men came to power through military coups, their approaches to leadership have been markedly different. Traoré has positioned himself as a man of the people, drawing comparisons to Burkina Faso's beloved revolutionary leader, Thomas Sankara. Reports suggest that one of Traoré's first actions as president was to slash top government officials' salaries by 30% and increase civil servants' wages by 50%. These moves were aimed at addressing the economic frustrations of ordinary citizens, and they quickly earned him support among the people. Moreover, Traoré has shown a sense of urgency in addressing Burkina Faso's economic challenges. He has prioritized economic development and has taken control of key sectors in a bid to spur growth. This contrast between Traoré's populist approach and Damiba's perceived detachment from the people has been one of the key reasons why Traoré has managed to gain the trust of the population. Fast forward to today, and Damiba, who has been living in exile in Togo since his ousting, faces the possibility of extradition back to Burkina Faso. Why? According to President Traoré, Damiba has been involved in destabilization plots, allegedly collaborating with jihadists. Can you believe it? A former president, once hailed as a military savior, is now being accused of working with extremists to disrupt his own country. It sounds like something out of a thriller movie, but it's the reality unfolding in Burkina Faso. In a recent interview on October 5, 2024, President Traoré dropped the bombshell, revealing that Damiba's involvement in destabilization projects has been confirmed, particularly a recent attempt linked to jihadist activities. But extraditing Damiba from Togo isn't straightforward. As Traoré explained, discussions with the Togolese government are ongoing, and the situation is delicate. After all, Damiba is still a former president, and navigating these diplomatic waters requires careful handling. This raises an important question for all of us. How should nations balance the need for justice with the diplomatic respect owed to former leaders? What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Before his brief presidency, Damiba was a decorated military officer known for his expertise in counterterrorism. He even wrote a book about West African armies and terrorism, showcasing his deep understanding of the jihadist threat that has plagued the region. He was seen as a competent and capable military leader who could take on the challenge of restoring security in Burkina Faso. But somewhere along the way, something changed. What could push someone with such a strong anti-terrorism background to allegedly collaborate with extremists? Is it pure hunger for power, or is there more to the story? Could Damiba have been motivated by a desire to regain influence after losing power? Power, as they say, can be a potent drug, and when someone loses it, they might resort to desperate measures to get it back. It's important to understand that the situation in Burkina Faso doesn't exist in a vacuum. The entire Sahel region, including countries like Mali, Niger, and Chad, has been grappling with jihadist insurgencies, cross-border conflicts, and political instability for years. Burkina Faso's struggle is part of a much larger problem that spans multiple nations and involves complex networks of alliances, rivalries, and external influences. This broader geopolitical context adds layers of complexity to Damiba's alleged actions. Could there be external actors involved in these destabilization plots? Could there be larger forces at play, both inside and outside the region, that are influencing events in Burkina Faso? These are questions that will need to be answered as the investigation unfolds. As we wrap up today's story, it's important to remember that this saga is far from over. Damiba hasn't faced trial yet, and questions remain about the evidence and how any legal proceedings will be handled. Gathering credible evidence will be a challenge, especially if some of the alleged activities took place outside of Burkina Faso. And public perception will play a major role in how this situation unfolds. Any trial would be highly politicized, and maintaining the appearance of fairness will be crucial. Will Damiba be extradited? What impact will this have on Burkina Faso's fight against extremism? And how will it shape the region's future? These are the questions that we'll be keeping a close eye on in the coming months. One thing is certain, the political landscape in Burkina Faso and the Sahel more broadly is shifting rapidly. The outcome of Damiba's potential extradition could have far-reaching consequences for the entire region. It could set precedents for how former leaders are held accountable and influence the ongoing struggle against extremism in the Sahel. That's it for today's episode of Voice of Africa. If you found this update insightful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And remember to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our future updates. We'll be here to bring you more stories about Africa's political dynamics, leadership, and the ongoing fight for stability and progress. See you next time. Please like, share, and subscribe to Voice of Africa. Stay tuned for more engaging videos.